Welcome to Decide to Succeed. This is Deidre Chanel. I'm so glad you are with us today. Our guest today is a self-worth coach. She has helped many people change directions in their lives. She has helped people take worthy risks and step outside their comfort zones. She empowers women to fall in love with themselves and to live a powerful and purposeful life. She is the most kind and sincere person I have ever met. Please welcome Shannon Surgener. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Shannon, for joining us today. I am very honored for you to be here because when I met you, I was like, oh, this girl, she has like awesome energy and just like your mindset. I really was inspired by you. So I'm glad that we met and became friends, and it's all purposeful that you're here today with us. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And by the way, I'm still getting used to Surgener because, you know,
it's
that
new.
just happened. So
and
I'm still adjusting to that too.
Congratulations on that. That's beautiful. Yes. I'm still waiting, but hey.
It will happen. It will happen. I always tell people, I'm like, it sounds crazy, but you make your list, you visualize. I'm telling you.
I feel also for me personally, I think I'm still, and I'm patiently waiting because I know I want to get to certain places in my life before I feel like, okay, I'm ready to share and, you know, expand in that way.
I get that. I understand that.
But enough about me.
I'm like, we're about to go on a whole other tangent.
Oh, I know. This is about to be a whole nother show. Okay, so we all have our stories on how we got started in the work that we're doing. So what is your story? How did you come about doing your work as a self-worth coach?
Yeah, it it kind of is integrated with the acting and just my story before I even got into acting. And so it really began with my divorce because it was kind of like a rebirth of me and just who I really was, because I think oftentimes what happens with us as women, unfortunately, when we're in the roles of sometimes, you know, mother or wife, is what can happen is we're putting everybody else ahead of our own needs, and we're burying who we really are under these different roles based on the rules we've created, you know, to play those roles. Exactly. And that was something that I didn't know I was doing until I left.
Of course.
And so rediscovering my passion for acting and just pursuing that path was really what led me to the goal setting aspect, because with acting, as you know, it's like you really got to be consistent and you need to be taking those actions. And it's good to have somebody to hold you accountable to say, hey, you said you were going to do that last week. Did you do it? Yeah. So I was doing a lot of that with my acting with a few friends of mine. We were meeting on like a weekly basis. And I just found it to be so instrumental in the success that I was able to create with acting. And I just thought, wow, like that's really cool. That's powerful stuff. Like getting out of your own way and having somebody there to hold you accountable. And then fast forward to 2019 in the summer, I was asked to go on a podcast for the first time, had never done a podcast, and shared my story of just my dysfunctional marriage and relationship that I was in for 10 years, you know, even going into acting. And my friend was like, you need to share your story more, because this is good, you know, for people who are in that position now where you were 10 years ago. Right. And for them to see, like, this is what you can create for yourself after getting out of that type of toxic relationship. And so I was like, and so it kind of planted a seed in my head. And if I'm being honest, I had some judgment towards the whole coaching, business, because my ex is a life coach. So I kind of had a negative thing on it, you know, kind of judgment.
Yeah.
I had to kind of get out of that and just understand that it's different for everybody, and you just bring yourself to the work. And that's really how it started. And I kind of just started like dibble dabbling into it. And then once the pandemic hit, I just went full force into it and just started coaching clients, and then went on to get certified in neurolinguistics programming and cognitive behavioral therapy. It just really just became this thing that I just was like couldn't stop feeding my soul. I was like, oh, I want more. I want to learn more about this. It's so interesting, you know? So it just, so really, like, long story short, started with my, I guess, toxic relationship, and then my pursuit of acting, and all of that married together is what
Yeah.
brought me into this realm. So
Yeah, that's exciting because a lot of times, like you said, when we don't know, we're not aware that we're in it, when we're in it, it's kind of hard to say, okay, I need to take a step to get out. But then you can't say that if you're not aware of it. So I think awareness is like
right.
such a key thing. What are some steps or something that could like maybe bring them to a decision to say,
Yeah.
hey, I need to get out of this?
Yeah, it's very similar to a lot of things that we say we want to do, but we don't do,
Mhm.
like working out or, there's just a ton of those things, right? New Year's resolutions, and then we fall off. And I always say to my clients, it comes down to two things, pain and pleasure. And so that was really what I had to bring myself to when I left was like, okay, this is this process I do with my clients. If they're having a hard time stopping something, giving something up, getting out of a relationship,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what's going to happen in the next 5 years if you are still in this position, if you keep doing this thing? And
Mhm.
like, I really have them go into depth, imagining and visualizing and seeing what that is going to bring them in their life, what it's going to
Mhm.
cost them,
Right.
financially, emotionally, mentally, physically, all of that, how they're going to look physically. And then I have them go all the way down to 20 years, and I have them go till they die. And it
Yeah.
sounds morbid, but it has to be painful. It has to feel so painful that you're like, I can't do this another second. Like,
Yeah.
I got to stop this right now. And then it's going into what are the benefits that I'm going to gain when I stop doing it? What kind of life am I going to create then? And seeing those two different trajectories,
Yeah.
that in itself can really, and that honestly was what it was for me, because I had to get real with myself. I was like, I'm trying to change somebody who doesn't want to be changed. I can't control this person.
Right.
And if I have to be honest with myself, if I stay, is this what I want for myself in the next 20 years? And the
Hmm.
answer was no. So I was like, well, then I got to go because he's not going to change.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's almost like shocking yourself out of the negative environment and circumstances and like launching yourself into desired healthy. Oh wow.
Yeah, it's because, oftentimes we're going for the short term
Oh
pleasure
yeah.
of like, oh, it feels safe. I feel like I'm not alone, or, whatever. And so when we can really start to think about how these actions we're taking or not taking are going to cause these long term effects that we kind of keep putting off, but you can really get yourself to feel it currently, those long term effects, that can often really be, motivating to get
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah, it's almost like I was reading Neville Goddard's The Power of Awareness. And I think
Hmm.
once you, like you said, once you bring that awareness and like putting yourself in those emotions, those good feelings, positive feelings, and then where the way you're feeling here, it's like, why would you want that? And then you kind of
Hmm.
naturally start taking those steps and creating those good habits to guide you towards that good feeling.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like flipping the associations on its head, because, it's like with working out, for instance, it's like, okay, if somebody's saying, well, I feel like I'm going to hurt if I work out, or I feel like I'm going to lose sleep if I have to wake up earlier, whatever their pain is. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing too, is identifying what that pain is. What is the pain that you're associating with leaving? Do you think you're never going to find somebody else? Like, what is it for you? And I think that self-awareness is really
Yeah. I
powerful
think
too.
Yeah, I feel like too, that's where the self-worth comes in because like if you're feeling like you're never going to find anyone else, like what does that say about the reflection of your self-worth?
Right.
Like if you're not
Yeah.
feeling worthy that you can find someone else or have someone else or have like someone treat you the way you should be treated, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It kind of reflects on that self-worth. I was watching one of your videos and I really love your approach on falling in love with yourself. And that really touched me. What is your whole idea around that? And like, how do you work with your clients on falling in love with themselves?
Woo, girl. It's so much to unpack. I start baby steps, like everything is like really starting where you're at. And I love what you had said before we even started the recording of like just doing it, just starting where
Yeah,
you're at, right?
yeah, exactly.
And so that's really what it is it's about honoring where you're at in your journey. It's stopping the negative self-talk and judgment of continuing to put yourself down,
Yeah.
shame yourself,
Hmm.
holding on to the mistakes you made in the past. It's like just honoring those things, the emotions you're feeling, all of that. because I find that if you're not able to do that, it gets really hard to even take any of the steps, the baby steps, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, have some compassion for yourself, like
Yeah.
love on yourself, let's work on that. And so there's different exercises just for that, to
Yeah.
really build that muscle, because something as simple as looking in the mirror and being kind to yourself, and being able to accept the perceived flaws, that in itself is so huge for somebody who's like, I don't even want to look at myself in the mirror,
Oh, yeah.
and so it's really like taking those little tiny 1% steps to make the incremental changes. And
Mhm.
so that's why we start with falling in love with yourself in my course, because I've found that, like, if you're not doing that, it's going to be really difficult to do the rest of the work that we've got lined up for you to do,
Oh, yeah.
which is where we unpack, like you were saying, the self-worth, and like not feeling like you're worthy, not feeling good enough, and all of that. But yeah, first we got to start with those baby steps.
Yeah.
Love it on yourself.
Baby steps are important.
Yes, they are. Because I think that's half the battle is we think, I'm going to do this. And it's like 0 to 100. And when we don't do that 100, we're like, oh, see, I'm a failure. I suck.
Yeah,
Just
and I
forget
feel
it. Right.
yeah, and that's how I feel like the up and downs. It's like, instead of trying to just shoot up there, like, take your time with it. And once you get up there, you'll be able to sustain that. Like, the get rich quick schemes or something like that is kind of like mirroring that. Like, they want to get there so fast, but it's like, take your time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and that's what I can't, if I had like a nickel for every time I say, give yourself grace, it's just
Mhm.
so important, because especially with this work, it's understanding that we are all imperfect human beings and we are just trying our best, and
Mhm.
just keep trying your best. And if you can keep that mentality and not use every time you fall off as an excuse to beat yourself up and put yourself down, and, confirm that I'm a loser, I'm never going to do it. It's like, no, it's like, you're just an imperfect human, and that's okay. Get back up again and try again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I know this is not the most perfect segue, but I was just thinking the other day, I was thinking like depression, anxiety, and all these mental issues, and how they're coming like even more like every year, especially with the pandemic. And
Yeah.
I was thinking like how self-worth plays into that. Like, how, if we raise our self-worth, our level of self-worth, how can that eventually heal us from depression, heal us from anxiety and things that may turn into drug and alcohol use, etc.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I, I think a big part of it is not putting yourself on this pedestal to just never be a human, like never feel like sucky emotions, like
Yeah.
I think there's this like misperception of like, I need to feel happy all the time. And if I don't, like, I remember a client was like, I was doing really good, but then at 4 o'clock, I started to not be as happy, or it was almost like I should never feel anxious, or I should never feel, and I'm like, where do these rules come from? It's like, we're not robots. At the end of the day, that's what makes us so awesome and interesting, is that we do
Yeah.
have emotions, right? And
Right.
so I think there's this like kind of like, I don't know, I guess it's a perfectionist thing almost, of like
Mhm.
feeling like we need to always be on and never. And it's like, no, lean into that. That's like where the
Yeah.
juicy stuff is. That's where the lessons are, and
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
peel back the layers and find out where it's coming from, and like and let it flow through you. But I
Yeah.
think there's just this like pressure to, it's almost like we need to be happy all the time. It's
Yeah.
almost this like weird expectation, and if we're not, then like something's wrong with me,
Right.
so I feel like that's half the battle, honestly.
Right. I think we don't really sit down with ourselves and evaluate our thoughts and how we feel about
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And then we try
Mm-hmm.
to fix problems when we're only, I guess, in the sense, making them worse if we're not going down to the root of it and really
Yeah.
breaking down how we feel about ourselves and our self-worth.
Right, exactly. It's like putting a band-aid on it. You're not really addressing the problem. You're just
Yeah.
your whether it's, through a person, or whether it's through a substance or food, whatever it may be, to
Mhm.
feel a certain way temporarily. It's a temporary escape. It's
Yeah.
not getting to the root of the
Yeah.
problem. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's like, this is deeper than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
I'm over here making mental notes. I'm like, I need to work on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, but that's what's so beautiful about it is that it's like we all, I don't think that the work is ever over, you know?
Oh, no.
Like, I'm just like, I'm a lifelong
Yeah.
learner. I'm like, I'm always learning. I'm learning from my clients.
Yeah,
Learning
it's
from,
so
you
true.
know.
And I preach that too. I feel like life is about self-evolution. Like you're going to
Mhm.
continually evolve as long as you're
Yeah.
living. It's all about evolving. And it's like, because like
Mhm.
once you set a goal and you meet the goal, what do? You set another goal. And then you set
Right.
another. It's like you're constantly, kind of one-upping yourself in a sense on that mental level and just like really working on yourself and living up to your potentials. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Super important. And I think it's a fine balance too between, you know, because I'm often talking about goals. That's like the main thing that we're working on when I'm working with my clients. But I'm always, you know, wary with them of like, okay, you're not waiting until you get this outcome to feel worthy, right? Because oftentimes I'm catching them on like, wait a minute, hold up. Like, so when you do A, B, and C, and D, E, then you'll be worthy. Like, wait a minute, hold up, let's go back.
Reverse
Like,
that.
right, how do we feel worthy? Let's get it so you're feeling worthy now in the process of working towards that, because we always want to continue to grow, but you know, that's where I have to watch it sometimes. I'm like, okay, let's find that that fine balance between it's like goal setting but also finding a way to feel successful and worthy in the process of reaching that destination.
Yeah.
Because it's like at a certain point, it's like, one, where does it end? You know, because if you're reaching for something to feel a certain way and then you get there and then you're like, oh, I need something else. Right. Or it feels empty, or you just, it's like never ending pursuit. But also, I'm like, if you die tomorrow, I don't want to be waiting until I make, 5.5 million and have 2.4 kids, to feel worthy. It's like, I want to feel worthy right now.
Yeah.
Every day,
Yeah. So I think that's kind of where a lot of people, like, say, for instance, put something on a pedestal, like, oh, once I get here, like, I want to, let's just say, win an award as an actor. And once they get there and they win that award, and then they don't feel fulfilled inside. And then I feel like that's a lot of times where mentally we start to go down. And I feel like building that self-worth and having that true purpose behind it. Because I feel like if you do something with purpose and you achieve something, it's just the outcome of that purpose, or like the result, the ice cream, the cake, the cherry on top of your purpose and doing what you love, opposed to just doing something to reach a goal to get a trophy. That's really the feeling. It's really the process, the purpose, the passion.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because everything at the end of the day is about a feeling. It's like everything we want is to feel a certain way. Right. And so it's like, let's do the work so that you're creating that feeling within yourself already. So you're not depending on external factors to feel fulfilled,
Speaking of external factors, social media. I think well, it's like, I feel like we depend on it, or we have begun to depend on it, and to give us that validation, and for that to determine what our level of self-worth is. And it's like, I feel like we can program ourselves to where we can enjoy social media, but still build and gain and have that level of self-worth that's necessary to, live a healthy, mentally healthy, healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
What are your feelings on social media and like how it's affecting us in our mental states, in our feelings, in our level of self-worth?
Yeah, it definitely is not good for our mental health. That's for sure. I mean, I actually did one of the courses I did during the pandemic, actually, and now I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, but it was like it's science-based psychology for just happiness and just overall like fulfillment. And they actually have studies that show like when you go on Facebook and Instagram, your happiness actually declines.
Wow.
It actually is making us depressed.
Wow.
And so for me, like, I honestly, the only reason I even get on social media, it's literally with my intention of like spreading the word of like the business, spreading
Yeah.
inspiration and light, and I get off.
Yeah.
I have a very like, so I think if you're gonna do it, like you said, like have that focus and intention and get in and get out. And because especially with the younger women, I will say for sure, I've seen it where they are comparing themselves so much to something that's not even real.
Yeah.
It's not even a real, like you can't
Exactly.
win.
Exactly. Oh, goodness.
Scary. It's a lot. And I've had to have a lot of conversations with my daughter, you know, because she's on TikTok and Lord.
Yeah. What type of things do you instill in your daughter regarding self-worth?
You know, it's a fine line, honestly, because I am her mother. And so it's so funny because, you know, with my clients are like, yes, everything I'm saying, they're like, woohoo. But, you know, she's a teenager and she's just like, Mom, really, we're going to go into this right now. I kind of have to be sneaky and, you know, I'll like squeeze it in when like when she
Yeah,
comes to me about
right.
issues going on at school. And then I'm like, I got a moment to hit her hard right now. I'm gonna do it, you know, but I gotta watch it because if I do it too much, then it's like, you know,
Yeah.
Mom, like, oh, you're going into coaching mode, you know, so I kind of have
Yeah.
to, but yeah, just really instilling just, you know, as much as I can. I guess it's just like anything else with kids, you know, like clean your room. Some, you know, half the things you don't know if it's going in one ear and out the other, but I'm like, something's gonna stick.
Yeah. Yeah. I know
But
a lot of times they learn by watching and like by example of the way you live. So it's definitely getting in there.
I try my best, you know, whenever I have the opportunities to instill it, but it's always just around, you know, embracing who she is, just being authentic. And so I think slowly but surely it's kicking in. Unfortunately, middle school is real. So I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Especially in 2021. It's not the
Yeah,
same when we were in school.
it's not. It's so different. We were just talking about that the other day. Like we didn't text. We had no texting devices when we were 13.
Yeah, I was
Like,
still
what is this?
Barbie dolls, girl.
Yeah.
I was a late bloomer. I'm like, they're out there kissing boys. I'm here playing with my Barbie dolls. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Earlier, you mentioned you were studying cognitive behavioral therapy. Tell us a little bit about that. I'm interested to know.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's one of my favorite. So I have a whole course on just that, just cognitive distortions is what I call it, and just how to deal with them, because I like to call them the roots of the tree. Like they're the negative thoughts that just
Oh, okay.
mess with us all day. And then I'm sorry, the branches of the tree. I think I said the roots. And then the roots are the limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves and about the world that are kind of outsourcing those branches, right?
Stem from the beliefs that are okay.
So that's kind of how I, you know, unpack it. But then the cognitive distortions is, you know, just to give a few examples, is like assuming or over personalizing. So for instance, I like to give the example if like somebody's walking down the street that you recognize and you say, hey, and they don't say hi to you, what's your interpretation of that?
Right.
You know, 99% of what we're responding to is our perception of reality, not reality itself, right? And so we have all these cognitive distortions that are kind of blocking what's really happening and blocking us from being like objective to the situation. And so there's so many different ways we can interpret the person not saying hi to us. And based on how we interpret that is going to determine obviously how we feel the rest of the day or maybe the rest of the year, you know?
Yeah.
And so I give different examples. I'm like, so what do you think? Is it because like that person is ignoring you and being rude, or is it because they maybe didn't see you, or maybe that person's having a bad day, or whatever, you know, and depending on how you interpret it, depends on how you go about your day. So I give the examples of different types of cognitive distortions so people can just be more familiar with what it is and they can spot it when it's happening to them.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I'm overgeneralizing, like, or I'm over personalizing right now. Let me stop doing that, you know, and then just different techniques to just take the power away from those thoughts, basically.
Yeah. I read a book called A Perception of Reality.
Hmm.
It was so interesting. It was so mind blowing. It's pretty much that, because like your reality is going to be whatever your perception is. Like you,
Mm-hmm.
example, if this person doesn't say hi back, my perception, because of my beliefs and my thought system, is like, oh, he's being rude. He could have said hi back, when maybe their reality is they didn't hear you. You
Right.
know, but it's like, it's only what we've created in our own minds, like the story that we tell ourselves, or whatever our energy.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a negative energy that we've taken on that day, everything that we perceive is going to be most likely in a negative way, opposed to if
Yeah.
you trained yourself to uproot those positive thoughts and create those positive beliefs and things for yourself, then that person will be like, oh, they didn't hear me, maybe I'll see them next time. It'll be more of a
Yeah.
positive. It'll definitely get
Okay.
you aware of
Yeah.
how you're processing things.
I love that so much. And I think it helps so much with communication in relationships, because so many people will often, when they do the course, they're like, oh wow, like I'm doing this one a lot, and it really just shifts your perception, but also just how you're responding, because you're calling yourself out and you're just you're just practicing it more and more, to the point where like, oh, wait a minute. Is there another way I could interpret that? There's another possible interpretation. This might actually be more helpful
Yeah.
versus this one that's not serving me,
Right.
so yeah, so it can be a really big game changer when you start
Yeah.
addressing those cognitive distortions. I
Yeah.
get you.
Speaking of relationships, have you had an instance where you had an actual couple that you worked with in those circumstances that they're dealing with?
Yes, I did actually. I had my first couple. I actually did they did like an interview recently, a few months back, but I'm just so delighted with that whole situation, because when they first came to me, I was like, guys, I don't know about all this. Like,
Oh goodness.
well, because they were coming out of therapy, and I was like, I'm not a therapist. I work
Oh,
with goals. I always just want to make sure I'm really upfront and clear,
yeah.
so nobody has crazy expectations of
Yeah.
something I'm not providing.
Right.
But they've just been so happy, and it's been really great, because they realized that the very thing they were doing, which this is often what happens when we're doing things that make us feel safe, which is like our survival patterns,
Mm-hmm.
we're actually pushing them further apart.
Right.
So it was triggering them in like a way where it was like disconnecting them even more. So
Mm-hmm.
they had to really learn how to change their responses to the triggers that were
Yeah.
happening. So we had to really unpack a lot with that. But yeah, it's been going really well. I still work with them on a monthly basis. I started working with them back in January. There was a lot of trust issues, so that was
Mm.
one. And I had to watch it, because I've had past trauma of trust issues in relationships in the
Wow.
past. So I was like, okay, Shannon,
Oh
you're
goodness.
neutral.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So it was interesting for me too. But yeah, it's gone really well, especially with the communication
Yeah.
aspect.
That's so vital in any relationship,
Hmm.
work, love,
Oh yeah,
family,
yeah,
friends. Yeah.
exactly.
So I do have one
Huge.
last question before we head out. Shannon today, looking back at Shannon in her previous circumstances 10 years ago, what would you
Mhm.
go back and tell yourself from a coach's perspective to yourself back then 10 years ago?
Huh. It would be what I say to myself now, is that you are worthy, you are loved, and you're going to be okay.
Oh.
Gets me every time, It's like if you're
Yeah.
having one of those moments or those days, and you're just like, oh, you are worthy, you are
Yeah.
loved, and you're going to be okay.
And it's awesome how powerful just simple words are.
Hmm.
Yeah. And just giving yourself that love and not
Yep.
expecting it from any outside sources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just loving on yourself, and, just practicing faith in the unknown.
Yeah.
All you can
Well,
do.
thank you. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. I'm
Of
sure we're going to have
course.
you back in the future at some point. And tell us where we can find you on social media with positive
Yes.
intention.
Yes.
And what else you're doing and how they can reach you if they are looking for any coaching work.
Absolutely. Yeah. So definitely on Instagram _Shannon Surgeoner. If you click on my link in my bio, that really brings you to all of my work. So you can join my Facebook group there. I have an awesome Purposeful Living Facebook group. It's been great, just building that community over this pandemic.
Yeah.
I post content in there on a weekly basis. And I also have a course that is available for people who don't want to do a one-on-one coaching type of situation. If they're just wanting to work on it at their own pace, they can do that. Or they have the option of working with me one-on-one. I'm very flexible. So I have people who've bought the course and then I'm like, hey, if you ever need me, just hit me up. So we can do one-on-one sessions that way too. So yeah, I will work with anybody where they're at and figure out what's going to really serve them the best.
Thank you again for being here with us today. And we will see you soon in the future.
Yep, looking forward to it.
And thanks again for joining us on Decide to Succeed. Please subscribe, hit the bell. It'll notify you for when we upload our next video. Welcome to Decide to Succeed.